Raymond Yu from Epsilon chapter take it away to introduce the rest of our speakers today.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, fellows. My name is Raymond Yu, and I'm from the Irvine chapter of Lambdas. Anyhow, this morning we have both Jim Liaw and Jim Lee. Hopefully they're both on, and they are. I do see them both on. And so what we're going to do for the first 15 minutes is I will interview or talk to Jim Liaw first, and then Mark Oki. Mark, are you on by any chance? Okay. Mark needs to hop on, but I think he will. So Brian, you can sort of conversate maybe with Mark to get him on while I continue on. So Jim Liaw, do you have your microphone on or off? Okay. Good morning, Jim.
Morning.
Okay. So, it's been a while since, I've run into you. And I remember the last time I ran into you, you had mentioned to me and you said, hey, Ray, if ever given the chance to, give back or do anything for Lambdas, reach out to me. So, I remembered that, throughout the years. So I was like, this is the first time that Lambda Phi Epsilon's doing convention, online because of the given times we're all in. So I finally, was able to reach out to you, and I'm really glad that you're able to be here today. So let's just get into it. For the first 15 minutes, we will just get to know Jim a little bit, and then Mark Oki will take over for the next 15 minutes. So Jim, let me ask you, do you really love where it is that you're at today, and what it is that you're doing for work?
Sure. I mean, first I'd say I appreciate guys like you, Raymond, that always keep a really good network of guys together. I probably keep in touch with maybe just a small handful of, Pledge Brothers and other guys that, were pledging in chapters near us that we, hung out with and interacted with, but definitely not at the scale that you are. You're always everywhere. So first appreciate that and kind of keeping that network together. Where I am now, I mean, prior to COVID, I really love where I am. During this time, these last 2.5 months or so have been challenging, to say the least. Obviously, with somebody not that runs their own business, and so not only watching out for myself and my family, but also with those that work with and around us. But take that aside. Getting here wasn't easy necessarily, but I think people always kind of cliche that you find a career that you're passionate about. Always been really enthusiastic and really passionate about cars and car culture, and the fact that I'm able to work in it, be surrounded by it, and actually even start a business that involves it. I would say pretty content to be in that place.
Okay, let me just bring back a memory for you back at your UCLA Lambda days. Were you driving a car at the time, and if so, was it a stick shift or automatic?
Let's see. I carried over a car from high school. Those of you guys that know the UCLA campus, getting parking was a pain. So as a freshman, to try to get parking was almost impossible. But we're in Southern California, we're in LA, right? Car culture is kind of our life. So I made it a point, to go home. I grab my car and come back and hang out with the guys, and then go back home, drop the car off, and have my dad come drop me back off on campus.
Do you remember which brand it was?
Yeah, I had a BMW, and it was a manual.
Manual. Okay, got it. Okay, I noticed posts from other bros, and I noticed the other Jim Lee, he tends to do a lot of bike rides, to do the intensive type of bike riding. What I wanted to find out from you is, what do you do with your time when you're alone time away from, say, your kids and your wife?
That's very rare, actually. I have two young kids. My daughters are 8 and 11. So the last decade has really been balancing time with them. They were infants for years, obviously, and what I do, I'm traveling. I would say, at least 10 times a year on anywhere from 2 to 5, 6 days at a time. So, it's almost like, 1 week a month, I'm essentially on the road if you're to look at it that way. So the time back here is very little. So yeah, I'd say really there's not much alone time. That's why I find myself being like a night owl, and I'm, watching Netflix at night and things like that to catch up.
And you know, due to the time constraint, we still have time, but in your UCLA Lambda days, do you ever recall a period of time where you had to deal with a period of struggle, or where you failed tremendously?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody here can attest, to that. I mean, I went into school. I felt that, I did okay. Obviously, that's why I ended up at UCLA. But I think, generally speaking, I didn't have, um, the right routine, the right kind of balanced mindset to manage my own time. And I think that was really a struggle. It was really, fun to be away from home. It was really fun to be in a new environment, and obviously being, pledging and being active, had its share of fun as well. And so I'd say probably like, towards the end, junior, senior year, it was a bit challenging because I think some of the imbalance in my time management kind of caught up to me. And so as I was, almost nearing the time to graduate, and this was obviously before, before social media, before even really like career boards and things like that. I really got nervous in terms of, well, what's available for me afterwards? Am I gonna try to go to grad school? I chose a major. I was an Asian American Studies major because it was offered my sophomore year, so I switched over from econ, and that was my passion as well. I thought that was really, really great. But towards the end, yeah, I got nervous. Like, what am I going to do? Afterwards, am I really going to teach? Am I going to go to grad school? I didn't know, and it kind of forced me to learn to kind of get outside of my shell. Like, I'm pretty introvert of a person, so to kind of be out there and to dig around to see what careers, internships were available in and around the industry that I wanted to be in. And luckily enough, I got a small break, and that kind of opened up my opportunity, my chance into the industry I'm in now.
Got it. And one last question before we move on to Jim Lee. The question is, given the times that we're in, Jim, has there been a creative pivot for your organization, especially within Formula D? Because as I know, the cars are going around tracks modified very fast, at fast speeds, but due to the fact that these stadiums aren't going to be allowing people there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, our challenge is that where we are kind of like I would say like in the middle of sporting events or like a motorsports events. We're not the legacy brands like NASCAR that has huge dollars and TV money, things like that, and the ability and teams that are well funded to be able to outlast this, or to pivot that requires a lot of investment. Nor are we your weekend track event where just as long as people, participants come with their cars, we could still kind of operate. We're in need of a little bit of both. And so I'd say luckily enough, our audience serves a younger demographic. So we are way more engaged, online than some of the other brands are. We're the ability to shift is obviously a lot faster, but there's still some of the, standard challenges, right? Like you said, we race, we compete on track, and without fans, there's a big part of that that's missing. And what do we do about that? And, there's revenue that's missing because of that. And so how do we pivot, around that? So, the current model right now is to explore events without fans. And how do we do that? Luckily we have a huge online community that we could stream and we could communicate. So whatever changes we make going forward, we're at least able to serve the community that way. Our on-site fan kind of engagement and the atmosphere, the festival atmosphere is important, but it's not, luckily it's not the only thing that we can deliver to our partners and to the competitors that compete with us. And then obviously aside from that, we've seen everybody, shift into esports. Now, whether they're doing it properly or not, we don't have the dollars to shift as quickly that way. But at least it's giving us time to do a lot of homework to make sure that whatever move we make is right, rather than just, plugging the hole and putting a Band-Aid on it. Whatever we do to move in that direction is probably, hopefully more thought out.
Got it. Well, thank you, Jim. All you other brothers online, if you actually have questions, hold them off for now. We're going to have a Q&A section in about 15 minutes. So with that said, Brian, were you able to bring in Mark Oki?
I've messaged Mark, but I haven't been able to hear from him yet. So we'll just continue to go on with the rest of the workshop.
Oh, okay.
Probably asleep.
No, I was just chatting with Mark, and he's over in Thailand, so and it's 12 midnight. But anyhow, let's go on. So the next panelist here is Jim Lee, founder of Lambda Phi Epsilon. Okay, so sorry, I don't know. I have somebody else on my screen. Let me pin Jim. Okay, there's Jim. Otherwise, it just seems a little strange. So good morning, Jim. Thank you for being here. Thank you for
yeah, thanks to Brian and to you for putting this together. It's it's a pleasure to, and I believe it's a little bit of an honor to be here with you guys today. So thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you, Brian DeSono. So same question goes to you. Do you really love where it is you're at today, working for Acura Corporate?
Yeah, I mean, I've been at American Honda it'll be 30 years this year. I've held a lot of different jobs, and much like Jim Liaw, I mean, I'm a car guy. I've always been a car guy. A lot of the charter founding fathers and charter members we used to work at my parents' house garage almost every weekend on cars. So it was a dream come true to be working at Honda. Prior to that, I was part of a mail order catalog electronics company called Crystal Sonics. I don't know, everybody here is too young to know what that was. But it was a catalog car stereo alarm and cell phone place in Glendale, California that we sold through the mail also. So.
Got it. So those were in your earlier years back then.
Yeah.
What kind of car was it for you when you were at UCLA? Did you have a car? And if so, was it manual or automatic?
Yeah, I had a 1979 Mustang 5-speed. It was a Fox body Mustang. It was the first year of that body style. Ended up converting that probably in my junior year to a turbo. I pulled the SVO turbo motor out of a wreck and put it into my car. Needless to say, yeah, ran a few races in it.
And of course, that was during the days of Thomas Guides, right?
The days of Thomas Guides, the days of hanging out at Stadium Way and doing the drag races around Nisei Week and things like that, where 400 or 500 people would show up watching drag races. So, and there wouldn't be a cop to be found anywhere. So it was pretty cool.
So do you have any real distant memory that you still remember back from your UCLA days?
Oh yeah, I mean, just meeting with, getting to meet, just hanging out with Craig Ishigo and all the rest of the charters. And back in the day, before when we were trying to get this all together and form it, I think that was probably one of the better times. It made me go 2 extra summers and an extra year at UCLA because of Lambdas, but that's another story within itself. It extended my stay there. Being first pledge dad, kind of paving the way for that. That was pretty fun. Later on, being president and advisor after that. So it was great being there. Back in the day, myself and some of the charters and some of the Alpha Pledge class, we had a DJ group called Destiny. We DJ'd all the sorority dances and actually a few of the fraternity dances also. We became the largest mobile DJ service that came to the Asian community during the 1980s. So that was pretty fun. Those were probably the big memories, and starting up the Little Sisters program, which has really blossomed into what we have today. And kind of the thing that put us on the map was the almost full contact without pads football game that we had with the Betas, which we kicked their ass. So
nice. So obviously back in the 80s and even earlier, music was always a big thing. Music and entertainment and dancing and socializing with the ladies and that sort of thing. Okay, so let me ask you this. Even though you're not Japanese descent, Jim, you work for Honda of America, which is a very big Japanese influence, I would imagine. So I guess what I'm just wondering is working for a Japanese corporation very, very tough and challenging as the reputation typically is?
I think it's challenging from the standpoint that it forces you to think differently. And especially at Honda. Honda has a culture that a lot of companies, that's a little bit different than a lot of other companies. The culture there is very, very centered on entrepreneurism. It's very centered on trying to do your own thing, but trying to stay within the guidelines, obviously. But they allow you to think on your own and allow you to be innovative and try to do things differently. A lot of times especially lately, it's trying to do things more efficiently with less money and more internal work. But all through the years, again, 30 years this year, I've had so many opportunities to do my own thing and be able to have a direct impact on the cars that drive on the road today, to be able to have a direct impact on how the cars are sold. It is one of those companies where they let you run with it until you hang yourself.
So since you lead the marketing teams and sales teams for Honda Acura, can you go into detail for maybe the next 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I've had different roles in the company. I started out in the accessory marketing world. I developed accessories for Honda and Acura vehicles. So that was 1990 to 1995. I was key to making sure that CD players, believe it or not, gentlemen, we actually had a button on the radio on the dashboard. And I wrote the business case to put that on every vehicle, middle and upper trim vehicle in every car. Even though the car didn't have it, we had a button that said CD on the radio. My forecast at that time was 12% penetration rate. We ended up the first year out 28%, and it grew until probably at this peak until about 55% up until when I was tracking it in 1995. So I mean, from a sales standpoint, we were able to do a lot there. I think that one of the other things that I did from a marketing standpoint was most recently, and that's kind of where I've met Jim, was in experiential marketing. I mean, that I did auto shows before that. That was my dipping my toe into experiential marketing. But then I actually managed and started the experiential marketing department for American Honda, for Acura and Honda. And that's really providing brand experiences, you know, through our sponsors or through our products, to customers, you know, really interacting with face-to-face with customers, letting them interact with our products, ride in our products, drive our products, touch, feel, sit, you know, and that blossomed into the Honda, you know, for Honda, like IndyCar racing, the Honda Classic Golf Tournament that we have every year, the displays that you see at the Honda Center, displays that you see at the Barclays Center in New York, you know, running the internal dealer meetings with, you know, 3,000 to 4,000 attendees. So those are things that, you know, on the Acura side, it was like the Sundance Film Festival. We are a major sponsor of that. And, you know, how cool is it when you have 250 MDXs running around Park City, Utah? I mean, you just take over the town. The Hollywood Bowl on the West Coast, you know, again, an Acura Motorsports. So, I mean, again, it's all those brand experiences, the Long Beach Grand Prix that I, you know, that actually, you know, got reconnected with Jim last year with, when Acura took over sponsorship of the Long Beach Grand Prix. So all those things are very, very engaging for me. I have a lot of fun doing that. And, you know, really being face-to-face with the customers, that's what it's all about.
Got it. And just a few more, and then we're gonna go into a Q&A for about 10 to 15 minutes, along with Mark Oki, because Mark finally was able to join in. But just a real quick, if you were to leave last words to some of your old UCLA bros that watch this on rewind later over recording, what would you want to say to them?
I think it's it'll be two parts. So the first part is I think it's you know, it is sad and it hurts me deeply that we don't have the Alpha chapter, and the Alpha chapter is not there, right? I mean, that is something that you know, Master Craig and all of us worked really hard to start and really hard to pave the way for everybody else today for the 70 plus chapters that we got to, you know, eventually that we've opened. But, you know, I think those are, that to me is sad. And to see it turn into something that the reason why we started Lambdas was to be the anti-fraternity, right? We didn't want it to be the club. We didn't want it to be the place where everybody partied, and it was like, you know, we were the other guys. And that was that was our platform. Our platform was to be the other guy, the people that weren't different, that weren't stuck up, that weren't, that people wanted to talk to, versus, no, you can't talk to me because I'm an Omega, sorry. But, you know, I mean, those are kind of, that was the mindset back in the day. I mean, so then, you know, having that, you know, we grew in strength and popularity because we were on that platform. But to see it kind of just go away and become a club, and see to watch the news and me not answering the phone because somebody from the LA Times was trying to call me to ask me about some death that happened, you know, I mean, just things like that, you know, just kind of really turned me off. And just recently, you know, I've been talking to Master Craig and things like that. It's still, you know, and it's sad that, you know, my son who started at UC Irvine, UC Riverside, you know, he can't go to it. He couldn't want to join the Lambdas even if he wanted to, right? I have my daughter at UC Irvine. I mean, I was walking around there, looking around just to see if I see any Lambda t-shirt, Lambda jersey, sweatshirts over there. I mean, it's just one of those things. Or during the college tours for both of them, at Berkeley, at UCLA, and, you know, looking to see if we had a table out there, and the answer was no. You know, and that was really sad to me. I think that was, you know, disappointing, and I think we could do better than that. We definitely can do better than that.
I agree with you, Jim. Yeah.
And the second part is, you know, got a little surprise for you. I was able to work it out, but I've got Master Craig here with me today. So So say hello to Mr. Craig.
Hello, fellow brothers.
Hi, Master Craig. Hello.
Good to see you.
What a surprise.
We did end up working it out.
Okay, so Mark Oki, you're on, right? Mark?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay, so we're gonna go into Q&A now for the next 15 minutes, and then we're gonna have to cut it out.
And really quick, Master Craig has got one thing to say.
Okay.
To all the fellow brothers out there, I want you to remember how we started out with initiations and stuff. It was never about hurting someone or putting them down. It was to build them up and build friendships. So if you can see the first 6 fraternity, the chapters, that's why they're not here, because they wanted to hold on to the old ways. But I have no idea when it changed. We were never, ever hazing our members. And we never condoned it. We never did anything with it other than calisthenics. And basically they have to know the oath and all that other stuff for the fraternity. So if anytime you guys have an event where you have actives or alumni go out there and want to change things up, first thing you do is write down their names. That way, if there's any kind of problems, that's the list you give to the police or whoever is conducting an investigation. That way you guys are you basically, you warn them, you tell them, hey, this is not the way we do anything anymore. Times have changed. You don't want to change, we're going to put your name on this list. You're going to be the first ones they contact. And that's my main message for all you guys and for the future of this fraternity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Craig. So Mark, you're on, right?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we dedicate this convention to UCLA. Appreciate all 3 brothers for coming out to start the workshops. We have a couple questions.
I think Neil Miyazaki's on here too, so just FYI, I think I saw his name on the list.
Okay.
Anybody that has a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and then I guess your mic will be unmuted.
Great.
You can raise your hand physically or through the program.
Could you repeat that again, please? Hello?
That might have
Okay,
been.
well, okay. Floor is yours.
I think that's probably some background mic noise.
Yeah, that's Ankush Patel has his mic open.
Anybody have any question that you want to ask?
We got Kang over here, I think.
Check it out.
All right, so I had a question for the original charter founders of Alpha Chapter. I just want to know, like, what did y'all prioritize, like, amongst the active brothers, whether it was like fundraisers, philanthropy, socials, like, what did y'all have like a lot of focus on that y'all want to continue for like the future brothers?
I think, a lot of, when we were in Alpha Chapter, it was almost all focused on philanthropy and service towards the community. We volunteered with the Kiro nursing homes and raised money for them. A lot of our the dances that we used to throw, we used to give a portion to the nursing home and to other charities I can't remember, but that was the main focus, and that was our platform when we first chartered, was that we were going to be a service organization catering to, not specifically, but mainly to the Asian American community in Southern California.
For sure. We're also so curious, like, how did y'all promote Asian awareness? Like, back when in 1981, how did y'all promote Asian awareness? I was just curious about like how y'all did things back then versus in modern society nowadays.
Technically, it's just talking to your fellow brothers and learn their different cultures just by talking. You can make friends. It's easy, is if you put your time into it. But to get to know their culture, you have to talk to them, and that's the only way you guys are ever going to find out about other cultures. Just be nice and talk to people.
Yeah, I mean, without social media back then, I mean, it's word of mouth, and it's really just trying to get out into the community and doing those volunteer services, whether it's at Nisei Week or whether it's at these Obon festivals at the Gardena Buddhist temple or something like that. I mean, just getting out there and doing things for the community, and people hear about it. I mean, back in the, people picked up the phone and called people before, so.
Yeah, one fundraiser and service project we had was actually sweeping up after the Nisei Week parade. So you got, to me, for you guys to not have fundraisers and service, it blows my mind. I've told this to other guys before. What we should have is basically start a tutoring program for the athletes. Have talk to the athletic director, whatever they need, you guys start doing. And then all you got to do is ask for tickets to sell, or even discount to your alumni that want to go see a game. Do the major sports. Or any of the athletes. Technically, you're helping out your school, and you can also make money by selling tickets. The tickets you can get for free as part of the tutoring. So you can make it a service and a fundraiser at the same time. I can't see that many athletic directors turning down almost technically free tutoring to help their athletes, So that's what I'm throwing out to you guys. You guys should be smart enough to, at least teach some of the undergrad athletes.
Okay, question from someone in our chapter, but they're not online because they had some business to take care of. Should we or shouldn't we include Lambda Phi Epsilon on our resume?
I have it on mine. Not that I'm looking for a job, but but it's on my resume.
Okay.
See, nowadays it's kind of tricky. It's going to be more word of mouth than actually putting it on paper. Until you guys can get your act together where anyone can Google search us and they don't see all the negative anymore. All they see is all the positive. That's when our fraternity can change for the better. Right now, social media is so easy to get to. All they're going to do is Lambda Phi Epsilon, what's going to show up. So until we can clean up our act as a fraternity, I would advise not really putting it down unless there's other Lambda Phi Epsilon alumni already working at the place you're petitioning.
Yeah, it is, like, for me, I think it was as a founding father, it's more of a milestone for me, and I think it's an accomplishment starting that. What happened afterwards, obviously, I had no control over, but that's why I have it on. It's on my LinkedIn profile, which is linked into my WooHuva profile. So if anybody wants to see it, you can see it there. But it is, and that's probably how the LA Times reporter probably found me too. So, but I didn't answer the question. I didn't recall them back.
We still have another 5 minutes, so if anybody has any question that comes to mind.
So actually, I have a question for somebody, and it's really actually for Jim too. I think it's one of the things that that we're trying to figure out at Honda or at Acura is how do you bridge that generation gap with racing, right, with motorsports, and trying to figure out, yeah, I mean, how many people watch IndyCar? Probably nobody on this screen right here watches IndyCar, right? I mean, how many people watch F1? Maybe half of the guys on here watch F1, right? So open wheel racing, or sports car racing, IMSA racing, Porsches, Ferraris, Acura NSXs, things like that. I mean, it is, but, and then you got Formula D, which Jim has captured the market on, and done so well with the sport. How do you bridge that gap? How do you get them to transition to the high budget racing that happens on the other side of the coin? And how do you keep the next generation from the next generation to get engaged with racing as a whole. Back in the day, we were all street racers. All of us had cars. We were lowered. We made our cars fast. We made our cars handle. But
Motorcycle.
well, I won't tell. Well, we won't say how many times he fell off his motorcycle either. But never fell off my car. But with that being said, I mean, Jim, how do you see that bridging? How do you start the next generation of race fans?
Man, that's a loaded question, Jim. I mean, I think for us, the first is accessibility. I mean, or let's take it even further. I think for the young guys here as well, it's kind of a almost a cultural mind shift or a mindset in that I think what has happened generally is not so much that a lot of analysts are saying, because people are more focused on social media, on gaming, et cetera. They don't want to go be hands-on and work on cars and so on and so forth. I don't think that's necessarily true. I see as many young people getting into cars and tinkering and working on their cars, and maybe they're not going racing, but they're definitely hands-on. I think maybe it's a little bit of a stigma or just something superficial where, I think generally people have gone away from really the coolness factor of it, that it's not cool to have a cool car anymore, that there's other things that have taken people away from it. It's not cool to have, maybe a tech career or a trade career. It's not cool to, it's much cooler to chase after certain, loftier or what seemingly loftier careers. Hey, I want to be in the tech industry because I want to go work for Facebook, because that's the, more flashy and cooler thing to do. I think really it's about a lot of hard proactive work to get people back to the racetrack. I don't think anybody, the fact that people haven't been to a racetrack, I think is one bridge, and getting people to be there and see the sights and sounds. Because I mean, whether you like IndyCar or not, you like NASCAR or not, even if you're not necessarily into cars, once you step into a racetrack, there's something really unique about the experience of the sights and sounds of what happens. And I think it starts with a little bit of appreciation to say, man, what these guys do inside a car, what these guys do to build a car or a machine to be able to do what those things do. You hope that you could open that up, and then really opening up the understanding that as for me really is that, I didn't understand the world of marketing or advertising, let alone, the car industry. But to let people understand that, man, it's not just about, hey, I'm going to go literally wrench on a car, but inside that industry, inside that culture, there is a whole slew of things, whether you're a tech guy, whether you want to focus on PR or graphic design, there's so many surrounding careers in that you could still hold on to a passion of cars that you don't necessarily grow out of it. I think a lot of people think like, oh, well, I'm too old to be, putting on a set of wheels on my car. I'm too old to be, doing something to my car. I'm too old for that. You're never too old for that. It's just, why has your mindset shifted that you have to put that aside? I think you'd still find a balance in that. And I think it's a long-winded answer, but I think if there's some way to shorten or narrow that gap to bring some people back, to the track to get them to tinker on their cars a little bit, I think that helps bring, our entire industry, not just IndyCar or IMSA or Formula D, more people back to the track and be interested in what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's the culture at Honda, right? I mean, Mr. Honda back in the day said, without racing, there is no Honda. And that's very true. We have a lot of engineers that go through our racing programs, and a lot of the things that we learn in racing end up in our cars, whether it's the coatings that are inside the cylinder walls to make the pistons slide easier, to how we build valves and whatever, right? I mean, that is definitely the hybrid system in the F1 cars parts of that end up in the NSX. So there's things that we learn from engineering, from mechanical engineering or electrical engineering or whatever, chemical engineering that apply to racing and to the car business. So.
Well, thank you, fellas, for providing your professional experiences. And we are going to have to wrap up, unfortunately. For Brian's requests, you said you wanted to take a group photo, Brian?
Yeah, so let's have everyone please enable your webcam. We're going to take 4 batches of group photos because grid view displays 25 each. This has been such a dynamic presentation. It's been capped at 100 participants quite frequently. So we will be sharing recording of this Zoom video to our alumni groups on Facebook relatively soon. I'm sure that our members can benefit from the insights and gems gleaned from today's conversation. So if everyone can please enable your webcam, we'll take 4 photos. All right, 3, 2, 1, smile. Next group. 3, 2, 1, smile. Next group. Yeah, feel free to throw your hand signs. 3, 2, 1, smile. Final group. 3, 2, 1. Oh, someone's logging in. 3, 2, 1, smile. Awesome. Well, thank you again, everyone. Please stay connected on the Whova app. Please update your Whova profile with your LinkedIn information and social media so that we can still continue these conversations outside of convention weekend.
Thanks, Brian and Ray. Appreciate it.
Hey, if anyone wants to get a hold of me, go through Brian.
That sounds ominous, Craig. Good
What's up,
seeing you.
Andy?
It's been a long time, buddy.
Well, if anytime you guys got personal questions and stuff, it's a little easier. He'll get you my phone number. I'll text you or whatever, call you. That's no problem.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Be
Take
well,
care, guys.
Be well.
Oh, hey guys. The Last of Us.
I think that went well.
That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, who would have thought that we were the other guys? We've become everything we would never wanted to be.
Yeah.
We're the main guys. We're the ones. Wow.
We've
That's
lived
very
long
interesting.
enough to become the villain.
Yeah. Oh man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense because we're a diverse organization, multicultural. So it does, I guess I understand that dynamic, but wow. I mean, like for its good and its bads, I mean, it just means we've grown larger. Interesting.